I do want to go ahead and get started. We're going to look at peer-to-peer fundraising and how you can actually use 4 key behaviors to inspire your participants to raise a little more money. So before I dive super into it, I want to give you just a quick introduction of myself and who I'm with. So my name is Abby Jarvis. I'm part of the team over at Qgiv, and we're an online fundraising platform that specializes specifically in helping other nonprofits raise more money. One of the ways we do that is by having a peer-to-peer platform. So I'm going to show you a little bit, so some best practices you can use in your peer-to-peer event, and I'm also going to show you a little bit of how the actual tools work. So if you are a Qgiv client and you see anything you like today, we can totally help you do it. Let me know what questions you have and what you want to do, and I can get you in touch with the right people. If you are not a Qgiv client, you will get a little peek at the platform, but everything you're going to learn today is applicable to you as well. And then just a couple small housekeeping items. We are recording this webinar. I always get a ton of questions about this. We are recording the webinar. You're going to get a copy of the webinar probably tomorrow, potentially Thursday. It'll also include a link to my slides and to a bunch of other resources that you can use as you work on your peer-to-peer fundraiser. There's also going to be time for questions at the end. So go ahead and drop any questions that occur to you in that questions box. And you'll use that same questions box actually a few times today as I ask you questions. I'm going to ask some questions, try to get a feel for what you guys are doing with your groups, and try to tailor things a little to your experiences. But the first thing I want to establish is really why encouraging our participants to stay engaged with us is so important. And I can hear you kind of thinking like, duh, Abby, we want our participants to stay engaged with us. But the reason we really want to put a highlight on this is because based on the kind of participant model you're using, between 30-ish% of your participants and 80% of your participants will not raise a single dollar. And getting those people engaged can represent a ton of potential revenue. So would you drop a note in the questions box and let me know, do you see a lot of $0 fundraisers in your events, or do you kind of see some pretty good participation on that end? Let me know what you think. Okay, we do see a lot of $0 fundraisers. Okay. So it's of course useful for a girl on the internet to say that we need to increase participant engagement. It's another thing entirely to understand what that looks like and how we can actually kind of bring down that number of $0 participants. So our data team at Qgiv gave us some really cool insights. They found that peer-to-peer participants raise money if they engage in 4 very specific activities. And over the next few minutes, I'm going to show you what those activities are, what they look like, and how you can use this kind of information to inspire your participants to raise more money for you. So to get this data, we looked at hundreds of different peer-to-peer events. We looked at thousands of individual participants and their activity, and then we used all that data to kind of identify these key indicators of success. We've noticed that successful peer-to-peer fundraisers do 4 things, and these people raise money or raise more money than the participants who don't do these things. So if you can get your participants to spend a few minutes personalizing their fundraising page, if you can get them to send some fundraising emails, if you can get them to post to their social media accounts, and then if you can get them to kind of continuously work towards different fundraising milestones, then your participants are going to raise more money for you than if they wouldn't. So I'm going to show you what this looks like in practice, and then I'm going to show you what it looks like in Qgiv. And by the end of this session, you'll hopefully have some tools and ideas that you can use as you get your participants actually really involved in supporting your nonprofit. All right, so one of the biggest reasons that peer-to-peer fundraising is so powerful is because of the very personal element. In marketing, and probably in some of your worlds, you'd call this social proof. People like knowing that their friends and family have either been involved in something before, or they've bought something before, or they've tried something before. So if you know that your best friend bought a product and really liked it, you will be more likely to buy that product than if you had never heard of anyone that had tried it. So in marketing, we use social proof to show potential buyers that they would like and use a product. In the nonprofit world, organizations can show their potential donors and their potential participants that their peers like and support a cause. But the trick is that social proof only works if you can actually get people to share their experiences and their stories. So encouraging your participants to complete a personal fundraising page provides a ton of social proof to their own circles. And it also gives them a really valuable asset that they can use as they go out and raise money for you. So this being said, we want to encourage our participants to build a personal fundraising page. There are a couple catches. So most participants will wait around 5 days between when they sign up to participate in your event and when they actually go in and create their fundraising page. So that's a lot of hours that they could be fundraising and they haven't gotten involved yet. And then in those 5 days, once someone starts customizing their personal fundraising page, they're probably going to stop working on it within 24 hours. So that's a pretty small, short period of window or short period of time in that window. And after people do that initial kind of round of updates to their page, they probably aren't going to go back and do anything more to it. So you want to get your participants to build a page. You'll help them build that social proof. You'll give them a way to actually start fundraising, but we need to catch them at the right time. So we want to encourage our participants to raise money for us. It's important to kind of catch them when they have registered. The best time to encourage them to get started is after their initial registration and then within the first 5 days. And then we'll want to keep in touch with them, especially in the first maybe 24 to 48 hours. So you can explore including instructions or ideas in your confirmation page, so the email or the confirmation page, so the one they land on when they actually complete the sign up. You can include those details in their confirmation email that they'll get confirming that they have actually successfully enrolled in your participant or in your event. And then in a couple of emails in the first 24 to 48 hours after they register. So that's tip number 1. So the next thing you'll want to give your participants are some tools that they can use as they actually go through and customize their page. So how many of you have built a fundraising website? If you would just drop like a yes or a no in the questions box. I'm curious because if you have, you know that there are a ton of best practices that go into building a good fundraising page. Our participants have never done this before. So you are a professional fundraiser and you know how important it is to have a great page put together. They know it's important, but they don't know what to do about it. So for them, customizing a fundraising page is going to be much easier if they have all the tools they need to do so right away. So one of the best things you can do to encourage your participants to put together a personal fundraising page is to give them some resources they can use as they do so. So you could include tons of different resources. You could include toolkits, kind of like this fundraising participant tips picture that I have here. You can give them different resources like photos or logos or event signage that they can add to their pages or share to their social media channels. You can include talking points that they can include in any emails that they send. You can do all kinds of things to get them kind of started. You can also explore offering a small reward for completing their page, and I'll show you a cool way that Qgiv can help you do that specifically. So you need to encourage your participants to actually set up their fundraising page. You need to give them the resources to do so. Here's how Qgiv can help you do that. So when you sign into your Qgiv account, there is an area called the Resource Manager in your peer-to-peer fundraising control panel. And that is a place where you can go in and upload important elements, so images, logos, flyers, fundraising toolkits, all kinds of things, and then make them available to your participants. So when your participants register and they dig into building out their personal fundraising pages, all of those resources will appear in your fundraisers' personal dashboards. So if Sheila is fundraising and she needs to pull a logo into her into her personal fundraising page, she has no idea which logo to use. She can just click right over into the resources area, pull up the logo, and add it to her page. It's a really great way to kind of get people over some of the trepidation around building these pages. One of the biggest hurdles that your participants are going to face as they start fundraising is not knowing where to find the tools they need. So be sure that you have any tools that they could possibly need in their resource center, so you can just tell them, hey, you don't have to go digging around on the internet to find the right logo. We've provided it for you. I would also highly recommend telling your participants that they can access these tools in their registration confirmation email. So in this Qgiv system, you can go into your receipts and confirmations area and set up the email receipt that they receive after they sign up to participate, and you can tell them exactly how to get to all of the resources that you've made available to them. You can also use this really cool feature called the welcome quest feature. If you're like me, using a new software is very intimidating. I work for a technology company and I still don't love the learning curve that comes with using a new platform. So imagine how overwhelming it could be to someone who is passionate about your cause, wants to raise money for you, but they're not super tech savvy or they're not really comfortable using the new tool that you have. And that's where this welcome quest can come in and help. So when you set up your event, you can enable the welcome quest tool. That's in the same peer-to-peer control panel that you'll use to upload those resources. And you can kind of customize the steps that are included in this walkthrough. The welcome quest then will walk your participants through the process of setting up and customizing a page, and then it teaches them how to use the tools like the emailing tools and social sharing tools that you've provided for them. So if you notice these toggles that are on over here, you can turn off steps. So if you, for example, don't want to really have a ton of teams to track, you can turn off the recruiting a team member step in the walkthrough quest, and your participants won't even see it. Julia asked, is there a way to just create a template for your participants? She works with people who will have a problem with communication, and yes, you can absolutely create templates. It's a really handy place to have it, and I will actually show you a couple other places where you can add helpful templates for people who need a little extra help. As your participants go through the welcome quest, they will go through customizing their page. So they'll learn how to do everything from adding an avatar to their page so people know who's raising money for you. They'll learn how to share their story on social media. They'll learn how to send emails. And then as they complete each step in the walkthrough quest, they'll get a little check off. And then at the end, they'll get a badge for completing their page. And believe it or not, participants are very motivated by earning that little digital badge. If you really want to emphasize completion of these participant fundraising pages, you can tie an incentive to completing the page. We've seen our clients do some really cool things like entering people in raffles for earning that badge. It's a great way to encourage people to really get involved here, especially because there's a real life incentive. The digital incentive is nice, but the real life incentive is very fun for a lot of people. Figuring out who has actually completed their page is as simple as running a report that includes everyone that's earned that badge. So it's a really great way to track which of your participants are engaged and how far along in the process they are. So there are a ton of ways you can encourage people to build their personal fundraising pages. I personally really recommend using those two tools in particular. So first, use the resource manager in your control panel to upload images, resources, and other tools your participants might need. And then enable the welcome quest. Participants will go through that quest. It's all automated. They'll learn how to use the system, and they'll become a lot more confident about using that system to raise money for you. The next thing we want to do is encourage our participants to send fundraising emails. We know that sending fundraising emails can have a profound effect on the amount of money that someone actually raises, but two obstacles you will need to help your participants overcome. So one, your fundraisers are very busy. They probably have jobs, they may have families. If they're not doing those, they may be in school. There's a lot going on. You'll also need to overcome their anxiety around asking for money. So if you have ever struggled with being anxious about asking someone for money, especially when you were a new fundraiser, you can kind of put yourself in your participants' shoes. They're nervous about asking for money. When I participated in fundraising events, I was nervous, and I talk about fundraising for a living. So think about how much time and energy, and not worrying, but how much mental energy goes into creating your appeals. Your participants don't know how to do that. So what you can do to encourage them is give them templates, like Julia mentioned. That's very helpful. You can also let them schedule out emails ahead of time. So if you have participants who are working multiple jobs or balancing jobs and families, you can kind of give them the opportunity to build emails quickly from templates and then schedule them to go out at a set time. It's also really helpful if you have the bandwidth to have a kind of a contact person or point of contact where people can get a hold of you and ask questions, maybe about best practices or about talking points or something like that. So remember, as you're giving people these tools, remember that they're not professional fundraisers. They can't sit down and spend a couple of hours crafting the perfect appeal email. They need to be able to do it quickly and easily. So these are some great ways that you can help with that. What you can do in the Qgiv system to help out with this, you can give them email templates, and there's a great way to do this. So what you can do is build out email templates ahead of time in your Qgiv control panel, and then this will show up in their fundraising control panels, and they can just tweak an email and send it very quickly. So it's great to give them email templates asking other people to donate for them. It's a great idea to give them thank you email templates. You can also build templates around recruiting people to sign up to participate if that's something you'd like to explore. There are all kinds of different templates that you can include. Once you've built them here, they're immediately accessible to your participants in their fundraising control panels. And from there, it's just a matter of tweaking a few things here and there to make it sound more personal and either sending them immediately or scheduling them. Once they have, I wanted to give you guys a little bit of an insight into how easy this actually is. It literally takes people only a few minutes to send a fundraising email once you have the templates in here. So this is what it looks like in your participants world. They'll click the send a fundraising email. They can choose a template. The template shows up here, and then they can just go in and make a few tweaks and edits if they want to. A lot of people don't. So this is a great way to help your participants overcome any kind of fear they have around asking for donations. It's also a great way to overcome writer's block. If you've ever taken an old fundraising email that you've sent to your donors and kind of used it as a template or a guide to create a new one, you know how valuable it can be to have a starting place. So it's so important to give your participants tools that will make it very easy to send fundraising emails. Our data shows that the fundraisers who send these emails raise more money, and that's great for you. We also know that they're very often too busy to sit down and put together a really effective creative fundraising appeal. So you can solve those problems for your participants by adding templates to the fundraising center templates. It's part of your control panel. And then having them there will make it really easy for your participants to take what you've had, update it a little bit, and then send it out. Oh, Lindsay just asked me a really great question. She said, when you reference participants, are you referring to a volunteer, a board member, or a loyal donor? When I'm saying participants, I mean anyone who's signed up to fundraise for you. So you can do it with volunteers. A lot of volunteers are wonderful fundraisers because they're already kind of personally invested in your mission. A lot of donors are great candidates for participating in these events, and these events are great for board members, especially if they are not super good at sitting down and actually asking people to donate. I know that non-fundraising board members is a big headache for a lot of people. So if your board is really struggling with fundraising, this is a great way to do it. So when I say participate, it means anybody who's raising money for you. All right. The other huge thing we want to talk about is posting to social media channels. So we looked a minute ago at why it's so important to give people email tools. Now it's important to look at why we should give them social media tools too. And one of the biggest reasons for that is that social media is a huge, important part of peer-to-peer fundraising. And this is simply because we are inundated with emails at all times. Out of curiosity, I love asking this question. How many emails do you think you get a day in your personal inbox? I know in my personal inbox, I probably get between 100 and 200 emails a day. A lot of those are marketing emails. I do also get a lot of nonprofit emails because of my job. A lot of you are right in the like 100, 150 range. So you know how crowded your inbox is. The odds of an email getting lost in your inbox is very high. And that's why it's important to have a presence on social media as well. The average person receives around 120 emails a day. And the more opportunities your participants have to contact with people, connect with people, and get their message in front of their friends and family, the more likely they are to have that message heard and to have an impression on someone. So if you aren't sure, if you don't know, if you really want to push people toward social media fundraising, here are some statistics that might change your mind. Encouraging your participants to get involved on social media is one of the best things you can do for them and for your fundraiser. We found that participants who post to their social channels, either updating people about how much money they've raised or asking for support every 5 days or so, are much, much, much more successful than people who don't. Another reason we really want to encourage social media posting is because people are used to donating on social media. I'm sure you have seen people raising money on Facebook for their birthday or to help a friend, and it's becoming increasingly common. So you're going to see even more of it. The last time they did a real study, around 20%, 21% technically, of all peer-to-peer donations resulted as a click on a social media post. So sharing your participants' fundraising pages on social media is something you really, really, really want them to do. But just like fundraising emails, there is an art to putting together a good appeal on social media. You know this because you do it all the time. Your participants, though, aren't professionals like you are. So you can lend them some of your expertise, and there are a few different ways you can do it. One is you can build social media templates for social posts. You know how to ask for money effectively in a tweet or how to do it on Facebook. Giving your participants a simple template that they can use either as a starting point or they can just go ahead and post is really great. Another thing that you can do in the Qgiv system, you can allow people to schedule posts to their Twitter account. Some of you, if you've been using Qgiv for a while, may remember that a long time ago, Facebook let third-party groups post to your Facebook account. So you could schedule a Facebook post as a security measure. That has gone away, but you can still upload templates for Facebook posts. So you can put those in your resource area. You can put them in your social templates. And then I would also really encourage you to include social sharing in your participants' welcome quests. So if you remember the picture I showed you with all the little toggles, make sure that the social sharing toggle is turned on so your participants learn what it looks like to share to social media from their page. This is one of my very favorite Qgiv tools that flies under the radar all the time. I want to make sure you know about it. If you have ever posted a link to Facebook and had Facebook pull in some random image that's on the page, you'll know that you can't change that image anymore. You used to be able to do it. You can prevent that from happening. You can do this by going into your social sharing settings in the Qgiv control panel, and you can set what pops up when people post to social media. So this is the interface you'll use to do that. You can upload the photo you want Facebook to display when people share your event, and you can also customize this description that gets pulled in. You'll know when you post to Facebook you can't upload or you can't edit that anymore either. So using this setting and maybe adding your event flyer and a nice little blurb about your event is a great way to make sure that your branding stays consistent across all these different Facebook posts, and to make sure that it doesn't pull in like half of a logo and some weird meta description that you don't really care for people to see. So not a lot of people know that this is in there. I think a lot of times we don't think about the fact that Facebook will pull in goofy images. So this is a way to avoid the goofy image pull. Another great way you can encourage social media posting is to just make it super easy to create a post. I would recommend adding social sharing buttons when appropriate throughout your event pages. Like you can see the organization from whom I pulled this example had the share on Facebook right under their campaign thermometer. They know that everybody looks at the thermometer to see how the campaign is progressing. Everybody's eyes are already on there. We might as well invite them to share on Facebook. You can also encourage your participants to share their fundraising successes. We know as nonprofit fundraisers that sometimes it can kind of be tedious when all you do is ask for support on Facebook. It's fun to share the updates and the progress and the celebrations. So encourage people to share their progress as well as appeals. And then remember, the sweet spot for posting is once every 5 days or so. And that, depending on how long your event runs, that can be a lot of posts. So give your participants some ideas that they can use to create posts. They're going to be more likely to post if they don't feel like they're just saying the same thing over and over again. This is a really cool Facebook tool that some of you may have used. We launched this, I think, last year. So another great way to get people to post to social media is to use our Facebook integration. How many of you have ever had a situation where you have had a fundraiser post to social media about their fundraiser and then they accidentally add the donate button to the post and people donate through Facebook and not your event? That's happened a lot. So what you can do here is enable this Facebook integration. Once you enable the Facebook integration on your side, you make it available to your participants on their side. And what this does is it will let Facebook and our fundraising platform talk to each other. So if your participant has raised $350 on their peer-to-peer page and they've raised $100 on Facebook, the $450 fundraising total will be reflected in both places. So it's less confusing for you, it's less confusing for your fundraisers, and it is a little bit more reassuring to donors when they see consistency across both platforms. Someone said that they can't get Facebook to approve their integration. Renee, if that's something that you're encountering with Qgiv, let us know and we can help you. Facebook has a lot of requirements when it comes to integrating with their platform, especially if you are a new nonprofit. They have a lot of really weird requirements around how many people like your page and what you can do there. But if you're using the Qgiv Facebook integration, get a hold of us and we can help you troubleshoot that. Tori did ask, can you only enable the integration with Facebook if you have over 2,000 likes? So yeah, that's one of the requirements I kind of alluded to a minute ago when I said that Facebook has a lot of requirements for fundraisers. I am actually not sure if that requirement applies to this particular integration. I know when it comes to the tool that we have where you can drop a Qgiv donation form onto a tab on your Facebook page, you do have to have 2,000 likes on your page to get that feature. This I'm not sure, but if you get a hold of us and ask us, we can certainly find that answer for you. I know it's something that our customer support team would know off the top of their heads, and I should figure that out. Thank you for giving me a question to ask them. Okay. So as you're considering raising money through a peer-to-peer campaign, take some time as you're building the campaign to encourage your participants to share on social media and to give them the tools to do so well. So upload those resources, upload those templates and kind of sample posts, pictures that they can use, anything your participants can use as they get started posting on social media. Make sure you update your Facebook sharing settings so you don't have posts that have a weird, unrelated image that Facebook's API just pulled randomly off your site. And if your participants are active on Facebook and they're actively sharing, which we hope they will, do look into using the Facebook integration for your event. If you are using the Qgiv system, that Facebook integration doesn't cost anything different. There are a few setup steps. We can help you through it, and it can save you and your participants a lot of confusion. All right, the last big milestone we want to look at is reaching fundraising milestones. Now, if you're not a Qgiv user, don't panic. I'm going to use badges as a success gauge. If this isn't something that you can support right now, you can still use milestones to kind of engage your participants, but we're going to look at badges. So when we looked at all of the data from all the different fundraising participants that we have in the platform, we found that the more milestones a fundraiser reaches, the more they actually raise. And there is a ton of speculation we could do here around why that is. But the big takeaway from all the data that we found is that people are motivated by having goals, and they're motivated by working toward that goal. So giving participants a series of goals to reach and rewarding them for reaching those milestones is a really great way to motivate them to stay involved in the fundraising process. Have any of you ever used like Untapped, where you get badges for checking into different beers, or back when Foursquare was a thing, you could get badges for checking into places? You were more likely to use those apps because earning badges is fun, and you're using the same kind of concept here. So there are two strategies you can use to help kind of achieve this effect. So the first one is to set incremental goals. You probably already set goals for your participants, at least in the Qgiv system. If you are asking people to fundraise for you, you have to set a goal. The key word here is incremental, and I'll use myself as an example of why this is important. A couple of years ago, I participated in a local peer-to-peer event, and the overall fundraising goal for the whole event was $60,000. That number seemed totally overwhelming to me and to a lot of the people who participated. Then I saw that our individual fundraising goals was $2,000 each, and that made everything feel so much more manageable. The thought to me of trying to raise $60,000 was so overwhelming. It's probably not to you because you're a professional fundraiser, but I was totally blown away by that number. $2,000 felt much more achievable to me. So our incremental goals seemed even more manageable. Getting to my first $100 was easier than thinking about raising $2,000. And getting to $2,000 was easier to think about than raising $10,000. So those incremental goals are really great to make big fundraising goals seem a lot less intimidating to baby fundraisers like us. The second strategy you can use is to recognize your participants as they actually start reaching those goals. So giving them little rewards, even if they're just digital, shows them that you recognize and appreciate the effort that they're putting in, and it makes them excited about their engagement and more likely to continue to raise money for you. So don't wait for participants to reach a major fundraising goal before you start recognizing them. Kind of recognize them frequently in small ways throughout the fundraising period ahead. So there's all kinds of fun, creative badges that people have put together for their different events. This is one, and these little bears are ones from one of our clients who have special ones for being the top fundraiser, achieving their fundraising goal. They had special ones for being on the event committee or being one for board members. It's a great way to recognize board members who are kind of going above and beyond. There are all kinds of, also check out this little profile completed bear down here. It's so cute. There are all kinds of fun things you can do here. So here's how Qgiv tools can help you do this part specifically. So the first one, of course, pertains to setting goals. You can set an event goal, and then you can set individual goals for teams and then individuals. So maybe you want to raise $60,000, but you really want your teams to focus on maybe raising $1,000 each. You can get that granular with the goal setting. Then you can build badges to award fundraising activity. So if you don't have the bandwidth to make these kind of custom badges like our friends here did, there are system badges in the Qgiv system that you can use. There's also a badge builder that you can use, so it's much easier. You don't have to have an in-house designer to do this. So as you decide what incremental goal you're going to use the badge system to reward and recognize participants for their work. These badges are examples from Seattle Shakespeare and Brandywine SPCA. They set different fundraising goals for their participants. And down here, I wanted to point out how great a job they did with the increments. They split their fundraising into tiers and then gave people rewards as they reached different tiers, which I thought was a really creative way to approach it. If you wanted to, and you really wanted to get people excited about fundraising, you could tie these badges to tangible incentives. We've seen so many cool ideas. We've seen clients have participants who reach certain goals get t-shirts, they get access to VIP areas at an event, they get raffle tickets, they get other prizes. There's all kinds of stuff you can do. So tying these digital badges to tangible rewards can be very effective, especially if you have some really cool swag. Depending on your event, you may also want to encourage some friendly competition between participants. Some ways you can do that is by displaying leaderboards and then kind of encouraging that competition by sharing and spotlighting different people's fundraising activities. We've seen a ton of nonprofits use these really successfully, especially if it's kind of an event that lends itself to competition anyway, like a 5K or a bike-a-thon. For a lot of people, seeing their name on these leaderboards is kind of a reward in and of itself. And then just as a glimpse, a real life story about how cool this is, one of my friends is a fundraiser for a local nonprofit here that has an annual event. And people get very serious about competing for first place. And there were a couple of fundraisers who were in a meeting who got caught with their iPads under their desks. And during the meeting, they were hard refreshing the leaderboard because they were duking it out for top spot. People get very competitive and have a ton of fun with these. So this is definitely something to think about including. I would encourage you to give your participants incremental goals and milestones they can work toward reaching. Working toward a big fundraising goal is intimidating, but little incremental pieces of progress make it feel much more manageable. It's also a great tactic for people, for keeping people engaged in the fundraising process. There are some tools you can use in Qgiv to do this. These are the goals, or the ones I think are most useful. We have thermometers, which are a really fun, time-honored way to show progress towards a goal. If you ever, as a kid, had one of those like poster board thermometers that you filled in with magic marker, you know how fun it can be. As your participants work toward those goals and work toward filling up those thermometers, you can build badges to recognize the hard work that they're doing. You can either create them yourself. We tell you how to do that in the Qgiv control panel. You can also use the badge builder in the Qgiv control panel to do it if you don't have the design assets that you would need to put together badges. And then if you really want to take things to the next level, you can tie those badges to in-person incentives. So anything you can do to set incremental milestones for your participants and then encourage them to reach them and then celebrate them when they do achieve those goals will really pay off, but it will keep your participants more excited and engaged, and it will help you raise more money. I did want to point out this really cute example from City or Philadelphia. This is how goofy you can be with prizes. They had a number of different, I think, they were staff members, not board members. The staff volunteered to be pied in the face when they reached certain fundraising increments. So when you raised $750, one person got pied in the face, all the way up to the executive director and vice president getting pied when they reached their final goal of $6,000. And they went well over $6,000. So I want to know who got pied at the end. So those are the 4 key behaviors of successful fundraising participants and how you can encourage those behaviors. It was a ton of information in a pretty short period of time, so I want to do a quick recap. 1, participants raise more money if they build out their personal fundraising pages. You can help them do that by using the resource management tools and the welcome quest that are in the Qgiv system. If you don't have access to the Qgiv system, explore ways of getting those resources to them by email or making them available on your webpage. These tools go a long way toward helping your participants actually be confident enough in their fundraising page that they will actually send it out and raise money for you. The second thing you can do is to make it really easy to send fundraising emails. So give your participants some email tips, give them some best practices, maybe give them a document or an infographic and include it in your resource center. Your participants will love having some pointers from a professional, especially if they have never asked for money before. Even better, you can give your participants some templates that they can use. They can very quickly pull up a template, tweak or change a few sentences and some wording, and then send it out. So the more quickly and easily they can send emails, the more likely they are to do so. Oh, Lindsay asked, does the welcome request cost anything? No, that's just a part of the Qgiv system. So you can use that right away as soon as you have the peer-to-peer platform. Another really important thing you can do is to focus on helping your participants stay active on social media. This is especially important because staying top of mind is really difficult when your participants are busy. So the best way to get them to actually do social media fundraising is to make it super easy. You can include social sharing in your welcome quest. If you're not using the welcome quest, you can make it a suggestion in a follow-up email or in event-related outreach. Remember, these people aren't professional fundraisers. They probably aren't comfortable asking for support online. So give them templates or tips or pictures they can use or anything that you think they might need to be confident enough to ask for support online. And then before your event launches, set up those Facebook settings. You don't want to have a goofy like half picture of someone's face or a weird logo that's not really associated with your event. Make sure you set that up so your event displays nicely on social media. You will have put work in to make your event nice looking. You want to show it off. Someone pointed out that giving people videos here is also really great. I do know a study that Google did a long time ago said that people who watch a nonprofit's video are 52% more likely to donate than people who don't watch video. So if you give your participants access to some videos that you can share, I bet you'll see a bump in your fundraising. Do take a few minutes if you're using the Qgiv system to enable and set up your Facebook integration. If you have questions about how to do that, we can help you. It can save you and your participants a lot of confusion, especially if you have people donating on those two different platforms. And the last big engagement piece is really focusing on setting milestones and consistently rewarding progress toward those goals. So setting big goals is great, but if you do set big goals, set little incremental goals so your participants don't feel overwhelmed. It's a great tactic to keep people excited and engaged about fundraising. It's also a great way to take some of the trepidation out of fundraising. If you ask your donors to raise, or ask your participants to raise $2,000, but they've never even raised $5 before, they'll feel a lot more confident when they have a little goal to work toward first. If you can, use the badge system to set up kind of digital celebrations of your participants' progress. Working toward a badge may be all the motivation they need. You may want to take it to the next level and have an incentive like a prize or some swag or an experience tied to that milestone. The incentives you'll want to offer will be unique to your nonprofit and your organization's events. The key is really just to keep people focused on moving toward those new goals. So that was a ton of information. I threw a lot at you. Don't worry, I'm going to send you the recording of this session. It will also include a link to a place where you can download the slides so you can look at them on your own time. I saw a couple of you ask questions related specifically to the Qgiv platform. I'll go through and answer the ones that I can. But if you want to talk about any of these features with our support team, if you're a Qgiv client, that's where you get a hold of us for support. If you're not using Qgiv and you have questions about how these features could work for you, do email us. You can email us at contact@qgiv.com. And then we have a ton of information around peer-to-peer fundraising on our blog. So I included a link to that Go check it out, see if you learn anything cool. So this says, I'm going to go over questions. Now, I usually have someone with me. He is sick today, so bear with me as I filter through these questions. I'm going to answer as many as I can. Okay, let's see. Does peer-to-peer need to be active in order to get to the research manager? Terry, here is what I think you're asking and the answer that I have for you. So if you are using the Qgiv system and you don't have access to the peer-to-peer package, as soon as you add the peer-to-peer package, you should be able to go into the peer-to-peer control panel and upload resources to the resource manager. The event doesn't have to be live before you upload those. So if you are working on a peer-to-peer event that's going to launch at the beginning of April, but you already have access to the tools, you can include those resources now. And then your participants will see them after the event is live. So I hope that helps. Someone asked, do you recommend making a Facebook post for participants to automatically send out? So I do suggest putting together Facebook posts that your participants can use. I don't know if you guys followed any of the legal shenanigans that Facebook was caught up with, but one of the things that they did a couple of years ago was they put a total hard stop to any third party posting to Facebook for you. So back in the golden days of Facebook, when there weren't a lot of rules, you could totally give your participants a post and encourage them to set it to post as soon as their page goes live. That is not possible anymore, but I do recommend giving your participants something to post, even if it's something as simple as, hey, I just registered to participate in this event. Check out why I'm passionate about this cause on my personal page. It's pretty straightforward, but it's helpful. Someone asked, I'm curious, where do these fundraising pages show up? Through their own emails, posts on Facebook pages? For someone who's never had a web page, where would they advertise their page? Okay, so if you are building a peer-to-peer event, I want to lay out kind of like the structure of how this would work. So you have your nonprofit's website. Some very small nonprofits may only be using their Facebook page as their website. That does happen. It doesn't happen all the time, but it certainly comes up. So when you have your peer-to-peer event, that is almost like a little miniature website unto itself. So it has the event homepage. It has all the peer-to-peer participant pages that link kind of outward from there. So you can almost picture it as a flower, like the event homepage is the center, and then all the participant pages kind of come off of it. A lot of people opt to build a page thanking their sponsors and highlighting sponsors. A lot of people have a storefront associated with their event. So if you're selling event merchandise, you can have a storefront. So it's almost like a little event website that kind of lives on its own. It's not part of your website. We would encourage you to link to this page on your website, and then you would share your event page to your social media channels and through email. So it's the hierarchy kind of goes like nonprofit website, fundraising event, so your peer-to-peer event page, and then all the little individual participant pages kind of branch off of that. And then you would share your event page and participants would share their fundraising pages to their different social channels individually. So I hope that makes sense. Let's see. Okay, so Gail asked a really great question, and she asked if 20% of funds are raised on social media, where does the other 80% come from? That is a wonderful question. So the study that pulled that out looked at a lot of different fundraising events, so the answer is pretty varied. So around 20% come from social media fundraising. I don't have percentages for these, but I know money would come from participants sharing their fundraising pages through email. So they would send out an email to their mom and their grandma and Uncle Peter and whoever else and ask for support that way. So that money would be attributed to that 80%. It can come from having different in-person appeals. So if your participant went to her Nana and asked for money for this fundraising that she's doing, and her grandma gives her $50, that's part of that 80%. A lot of fundraising participants for different kinds of events will get very creative. So when I participated in the fundraising event a couple of years ago, my husband and I worked with a local bar to set up a happy hour that proceeds benefited the organization that we were fundraising for. So that 80% includes all other fundraising activities that do not fall under social media. So that's where that comes from. I'm gonna look at a couple more questions. Heather asked, is classification still a thing on the Qgiv peer-to-peer? Yes, it is. We can go into that a little more if you want to talk to me privately, or if you want to get a hold of our support system or our support team. But yes, the classification system is still in place. And for those of you who are curious about what the classification system is, it's a way to kind of categorize the different peer-to-peer fundraising types. So if you have a peer-to-peer event and you're doing a 5K and a 10K and a half marathon and a fun run, each of those may be their own classification. Or if you have a number of corporate partners and they want to track who of their employees is participating, you could set up a different classification for US bank and public supermarkets and I don't know, pick a third business, and then ask their participants to register under the correct classification. So there are a lot of tools in the Qgiv system that will help you kind of categorize and track large groups of people. If you are a small nonprofit running a relatively simple event, it'll work for you. And if you're a giant nonprofit that is working with 200 different sponsors, we have tools for you as well. So a little bit of something for everybody. Everybody, you have been so kind, so fun to talk to. You have left so many funny answers to the questions I asked throughout this presentation. I do really want to thank you for hanging out with me today. I know you are busy, and I know that being a fundraiser, especially right now, can be a lot of work and you wear a lot of different hats. So I really appreciate you spending time with me, learning a little bit how to make your peer-to-peer events more successful. Keep an eye on your inbox. I'm going to get you an email that will contain a link to this recording, my slides, some other resources. You should get that within the next 24 to 48 hours. And then let me know how you guys are doing. If you have additional questions that we didn't get to, or if you have questions that occur to you later, you can tweet at us and talk to us on Facebook and we'll get back to you. All right, everyone, I hope you have a wonderful Tuesday. I hope you have a great rest of the week, and I will talk to you all very soon. Bye.